That's where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live in the Mappable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, today we're going to continue a conversation we had a while back. We're going to be talking about opportunity zones again. And in order to do that, we got to introduce Vicki Hutchmala from the QOZ Marketplace and the Opportunity Zones Authority. Vicki, how are you today?
Well, as in every time we do this, Ron, I'm absolutely fabulous. And Vegas, you know, we love Vegas. It's great. And we have a good guest today on our podcast. We're going to talk specifically about managing, investing in opportunity zones.
That sounds great. Okay, so let's get this thing started. Let's introduce Mark Elliott. Mark is the founder of the SC Opportunity Fund. Mark, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. And, of course, SC stands for South Carolina. That's where you're at, right?
Yes, indeed.
It's a great place. It's a golfer's haven over there, isn't it?
It is. We've got many golf courses in our state.
That's great. And I guess the only thing that you guys have to worry about sometimes is those tornadoes or those hurricanes, right? You get hit every once in a while.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely get our fair share of hurricanes. So season's not over yet. We'll see where we end up.
Yeah, but it's a good trade-off. I'll take golf. You know, it's a good way to go. But anyway, let's get into what we're talking about with opportunity zones. Let's talk about you in particular first. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background, how you kind of learned about opportunity zones, and what made you decide to get into them?
Sure. So my background is real estate investing. I own some multifamily and commercial properties. And you know, I was at there was a South Carolina Community Capital Conference, and they had Tim Scott's office there. They had Treasury there, and they said, "Hey, folks, you know, we just had opportunity zones pass legislation. You should really take a look at it. It's going to be big." And I took it kind of with a grain of salt. But then I went and started researching it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be big. This is going to be the biggest paradigm shift in investing we're going to see in our lifetime." And that's when I immediately decided, all right, I'm going to start up a fund. And then thinking about, all right, what's the scope of the fund going to be for investments? I know a lot of folks went national. I just didn't feel like I could know enough markets that well to be able to go national, but I thought for sure I could do South Carolina. So we're pretty much the only fund that's just focused on opportunity zone investing in the state of South Carolina. We're looking to do triple bottom line returns for communities, so that's financial, social, and environmental. And we just think that's a good move. In my mind, environmental is, hey, you're building the buildings really well, so you'll have lower costs. And then from a social aspect, hey, you're tying in the communities somehow into your projects. So 10 years from now, when you want to exit or whatever the time frame is, after that 10-year mark, people will still be using the buildings and they'll still be adding value to those areas.
Absolutely. That's the focus of the program, to build today to make a better community for tomorrow, for sure. So
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about the types of projects that you invest in, and do you have any projects that are underway or near to completion?
Yeah. So, you know, we've got one in downtown Greenville, South Carolina, which is just in between Charlotte and Atlanta off the I-85 corridor. And that one's just kind of a co-working space with a focus on nonprofits. So we think that's a great project for the community and something that's really going to be beneficial. I'm really excited about that project. On top of that, I mean, we've got a bunch of them that work on that are kind of multifamily. We had some hospitality ones that we were probably about 3 weeks from closing on one of them in terms of starting construction. And then the kind of COVID-19 stuff hit. And I actually feel really lucky that we didn't sign that stuff before or after it hit, because that would not be a fun place. So that project, unfortunately, we had to kind of pivot. So we went from a hotel model to multifamily. So we're in the midst of kind of re-engineering and doing that. But that's a fantastic project. It overlooks a downtown stadium, and I mean, it's prime real estate. The good news is we have control of some other land on the other side of the stadium. So when things turn around, we think will be about the right time to maybe do the hotel over there. But it's been really interesting to see. Okay.
I'm sorry. What's interesting to see?
It's interesting to see how some areas are affected differently than others. So that area, the hospitality would be really hard to do. But, we're working on another project in a very popular beach town in South Carolina that's an existing hotel we're going to reposition. And I thought that deal was not going to happen. But I'll tell you what, I mean, they have been at almost 100% occupancy 7 days a week for the last month. And that deal has kind of come back to life. So it's really interesting to see how some areas are just, really got leveled by this, and other areas are booming. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, we found that even though there's so many opportunity zones around the country, they're all competing with each other, and figuring out where to invest and what type of project to invest in is you have to do a lot of due diligence. You have to understand the demographics and the analyticals and get all of the information to make sure that your project not only is going to be successful when you complete it, but that it's still going to be successful, like you said, in 5-10 years from now, it's still going to be vibrant and contributing to the community. So even though you're focused in South Carolina, what do you actually look at to decide which zone to go into that is going to be more viable than another? Mm-hmm. How do you decide?
Well, it really depends. I mean, sometimes there are projects that we look at that on the surface you're like, there's no way this deal's going to work. But then you start getting the community involved. You start talking to the town, and oh my gosh, they have some tax breaks. Or wow, there's some abandoned building tax credits we can get with this. South Carolina has some amazing mill tax credits, and they've just expanded those out so that if there's a previous mill property or textile plant, you can extend that tax credit up to 1,000 feet from the existing structure. So that's put into play a lot of projects that maybe were borderline before, but because you kind of dogpile these benefits on top of each other, the projects work out really well. But I think your point earlier about the demographics is spot on. I mean, I've seen some numbers that are really scary for some cities in the north that 40-50% default rates right now for commercial projects on their loans, and that is really scary.
That is scary. Right. Yeah.
And then you see a lot of the demographic trends of where people are moving, right? So in Texas, Florida, South Carolina, we're lucky to be getting a lot of people too. I've got new neighbors. I've got one from Florida. I've got one from Connecticut. We have about 300 to 400 people a day moving to South Carolina. So we are gaining population, and those are great trends to be a part of. That the state is growing, and that we have lots of new folks kind of moving down here and enjoying the nice weather and all the great things that South Carolina has to offer, including, as you said earlier, our golf courses.
Right. Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier, Mark, which I thought was kind of interesting too. You talked about COVID and its impact on opportunity zones and really on everything, but how you're pivoting off some things. So a lot of people are saying that COVID really, obviously it's affected them, but not to a standstill. And some people are actually saying that they're moving forward better just by pivoting some of their ideas and maybe, reallocating what their plans were and making some changes. And it looks like you guys have done that as well.
Yeah, I think you gotta, you can either be paralyzed by fear or take some action, right? So I think we were in the mindset, all right, well, what can we do? We can't control the COVID happening. We can't control that the market, has kind of gone down or is stalled. But what we can control is, hey, what are we doing here? What is the product that we're putting out, and how can we reposition it? So it's been really interesting to see that, and I'll agree. I mean, I have had a number of people from other states, California, Oregon, New York, reach out to me asking about investments in South Carolina. So there's a lot of people who, and not only do they want to invest, they're looking for places to move here. So that's been really fascinating to see that people are going to like, hey, look, I'm done. I'm just ready to move someplace else. I don't want to be in this location that I'm at right now. And that's been really interesting to see as things have kind of unfolded with this whole thing.
Yeah, that's kind of like in Vegas. You know, you can talk to anybody in Vegas, and nobody is from Vegas. Everybody is from someplace else and relocated. So Vegas is like a melting pot of everybody who, from all over, for whatever reason they came, makes Vegas booming and a lot of opportunities. And it kind of sounds like South Carolina is beginning to be like that. There was a time when there were 5,000-6,000 people would move to Vegas every month. So,
oh, wow.
You know, I don't think you want to be overflooded like that, but it's kind of interesting that people are moving, deciding South Carolina is a great place.
Yeah, and I think too, right? Like, I mean, you're pointing to the demographic trends. I mean, there's some areas that are have people moving out, and do you want to own a property in those areas? And who knows what the future holds, right? Maybe 10 years from now, it's a great place to move. Everyone's moving back.
Yeah, exactly.
But right now, it seems like the trend is, hey, you know, these are not places that people want to live long term. They're going to go somewhere else, at least in the meantime. And it's been really interesting to see. I mean, I moved to South Carolina 12 years ago, and we had a little city of Greenville, and it was kind of a small, nice southern town, beautiful waterfall in the downtown. And now, I mean, we must have 6 cranes up downtown building various projects. Even still, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
And Mark, you said your background was in real estate. Were you a developer, or were you in sales, or what was your focus there?
Yeah, really just investing. So you know, finding different projects, syndicating, you know, an investment for them, and then kind of taking them down. So I would do buy and hold or wholesale deals or flips. So it really just kind of depended. I was very opportunistic. I found those skills have actually lended really well to opportunity zones, because I'll go and I'll talk to a city, and I get a pretty good feel straight off the bat of where maybe the opportunities are for them. And that's kind of something that I've struggled with. I mean, South Carolina, we've got 46 different counties. I'm trying to make sure we do a project in all of them, and you know, some of them are a lot harder to do than others. So we have to get a little creative. So you know, we've started to work on some municipal projects where maybe a county needs a new fire station or police station, so something like that, where basically we could build it for them, lease it to them, and then, you know, maybe build it in the structure that there's some buy-up at the end, or heck, maybe they gave you enough money, you just gift it to them at the end for $1. But it's a way to do projects and help these communities while using opportunity funds. And then for investors, I mean, that's a pretty low-risk investment. I mean, you've got a municipality that's on the hook to pay you lease payments for the next 10 years. That's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah, there's the municipalities and city officials again rearing its head, right, Vicki? How important is it to talk to those people?
You have to make friends with the municipalities wherever you're working in an opportunity zone, because they can make or break your project for sure. If they don't offer incentives for zoning, for permitting, for getting the project done, then you're going to have a hard time. But in a municipality that offers those, you're smooth sailing for whatever your project is. As long as the demographic and analyticals are on your side, then you're, you know, scooting down to success.
Yeah, and I laugh at that, Mark, because every time we talk about this, you know, Vicki always makes that point to everybody, and it's so true. So we always kind of say, oh, that's right, there's the municipalities again, got to get involved with those guys. So, but anyway, it's okay. So in other words,
Mark?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are you finding a lot of positive participation and incentives from the cities or towns that you're trying to put a project into?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everyone really is feeling the energy of opportunity zones and what they can bring to their communities. So, I mean, you know, I've been offered free buildings. I've been offered free land. I've been offered no taxes for 20 years. I mean, the things that you get offered when you really start engaging these folks and then talk about how you're going to help these communities, I mean, they roll out the right carpet and they want to see something done, and that's what this program's for. And you know, especially if you're trying to do something nice, hey, we're going to throw some affordable housing in here or workforce housing. or, gosh, we're going to help start up some businesses in our area. And that's something I really think that we're going to see coming out of this is the pivot to businesses. I mean, everyone was focused on real estate with opportunity zones, and part of the issue was really for what, a year and a half, 2 years, that's all we knew how to do based on the regulations. But I really think, we're going to have some great opportunities coming out of this where, gosh, even a restaurant, we've got some restaurants, I've seen in some downtowns where basically they just kind of, locked the key and handed the locked the door and handed the keys back to the owner of the building. Well, they left the refrigerators, the dishware, the menus. Everything is there to start up a business. You just need a little capital to do some food and hire some folks, and you're off to the races. The threshold to start up a new business is going to be, I think, low once we kind of turn the corner. And I think the trick's going to be timing that, right? Because if you did it now, probably not a good time, but I don't know, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, somewhere down the line, there will be an opportune time to go do that. And if you want to start a business, watch out. It's going to be a fantastic time to do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We've noticed since the beginning of the program, it's kind of progressed, and the focus is shifting. Where, as you said, initially people went in at the real estate concept because that was the easiest, most comfortable, because it involved land, opportunity zones, and land. They just went together. But now it's kind of creating a shift where, we got the land, we did this, but now they can see the true purpose of the program was to create jobs. And jobs come from business development. And as you said, there's, especially in this time of the virus, there's a lot of business entrepreneur possibilities out there that if you can grasp that and go with it, wow, that's going to be fabulous.
Yeah, I think if you can negotiate a little too, right? Hey, you go talk to a landlord and, hey, look, you have this empty building, you got 5 spaces open. Tell you what, I'll go start up a restaurant there, but I want my first 6 months free. A landlord who's got no prospect of anyone moving in, hey, here, have your 6 months. My gosh, the leverage you're going to have for starting a business is going to be really high, and it should hopefully not take as much capital. But I think the trick now is people should be preparing for that and deciding what they're going to do and where they're going to go. We had an opportunity to pivot a little bit into we're pretty far down the line with starting up a PPE manufacturing plant in South Carolina. And that's kind of really opportune for now. But 80% of our PPE is made outside of the United States. So we're beholden to others for that, even at the hospital level and the municipal level and the government level. That they all the PPE they're wearing is from somewhere else. So there's been a huge push to try and reshore that manufacturing, and we are pretty far down the line of getting something set up here. So that should be something exciting coming down the pipeline soon.
Well, if they can make hand sanitizer in distilleries, you certainly can make PPEs in a factory and set it up.
That's right.
If you've got the vision and the capability, that's the thing about this program and the positive effect of the virus, if there is such a thing, is it's opened up all kinds of new opportunities and new markets as long as you can see it and go with it.
I saw some graphic the other day floating around, LinkedIn or someplace like that, where it had, all the companies that were started up during the Great Depression. And there's some amazing companies that were started up during the Great Depression. Yep. So I think, you definitely got to have the attitude that, hey, look, here's an opportunity to get into something and, change the way that we're doing business. I think the reshoring of manufacturing back to the U.S. is going to be big, and I think, we need everybody mobilized to try and do that, and it's going to be a huge opportunity. I'm not sure the jobs are going to come back because you have to be competitive, and I think a lot of it is going to be automated. But we can get the production back. And then the ancillary jobs. When you have these kind of nice paying jobs in these manufacturing facilities, we've got, in South Carolina, BMW makes all their SUVs for the entire world. in Spartanburg, South Carolina, just north of Greenville. And they said for every job that's there, there's 3 or 4 that happen around the area just from those folks spending money and yeah, exactly. So it's really interesting to see the ripple effect of just what a few jobs can do in the right industries.
No question. Because that's entrepreneurship at its finest, is a cause and effect. And if you can see the cause and effect and you can plot out the ripples, then you know that's the motivation between entrepreneurship, is seeing the opportunity, grasping it, and then taking it forward and bringing the world with you. And these kinds of events, like the virus, is the seed that causes that necessity to happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, Mark, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think the big thing that the virus has done is made people rethink how they want to live their lives and what they want to do, right? I mean, it really forced everyone to pause. We were all in busy mode before. You didn't really have time to think. Well, now you have time to think about it. Is this where you want to live? Is this what you want to do with the rest of your life? And I think some people are coming back and saying, you know what? No. Yeah. So in some respects, it's kind of a blessing. I mean, not don't take that the wrong way, that people getting sick and and stuff is a blessing. But look, taking the opportunity to have some time for yourself to think about what you want in life. I mean, that's important. And I mean, my gosh, if you can readjust your life and when we're all at some point we're all going to die, we're all on our deathbeds, we can say, look, I led a life that I loved, and there's nothing I regret about what I did. That's what it's all about. You should be living
amen to that.
Way.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that.
That's exactly correct.
Hey, Mark, I want to bring up a point that a couple of people talk about opportunity zones, about the gentrification effect of it, and I wonder, how we were just talking about businesses in opportunity zones. Do you think that the business component of opportunity zone, you bring in successful businesses, high-paying jobs or well-paying jobs, does that offset the gentrification factor?
Well, from what I understand from the gentrification factor is that from I think it was the Enterprise Institute, someone put out a study about it, that really there was only about 2 or 3% of the opportunity zones that they analyzed that were at risk of gentrification. That I guess a lot of them are areas that are not as populated as you would imagine, and that there's enough capacity, I guess, to do some development and not necessarily affect directly a lot of the folks that are living there. And obviously, it's going to depend on the zone. But I think you're right that a lot of our projects, if we have a mixed-use development, we're working on one now. It's a mixed-use development. It's across from an HBCU, and so we're working with the HBCU to probably do some student housing there. We're going to have some retail. We're going out into the community and saying, all right, who wants to own a business? Who wants to run a business? And we're finding people who want to do coffee shops and barber shops and breweries. And what we're doing is we're basically trying to set them up and say, look, tell you what, we're going to give you $50,000, $100,000. We want you to put that back in the space. We'll own 10, 15, 20% of your business. And now we've de-risked the deal for everyone. We're going to be 100% leased out day one when we start. And then we've engineered every single business that's going to be in our building rather than kind of putting up a sign and hoping someone wants to rent the space.
Excellent.
That's excellent.
And as far as investors into your fund are concerned, what are you doing to get investors? Are you what kind of marketing thing are you doing, or is it just like kind of word of mouth at this point, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too much marketing. We do single asset investments, so we really kind of do one at a time. We're not kind of a big fund. So we have a group of investors that we work with, some family offices, some high net worth individuals, and some other larger funds who aren't involved in opportunity zones. And we've started to bring in some of the banks too, because they can now kind of invest in opportunity zones. So it's been interesting to see how it's all played out. But I think part of the thing in South Carolina is that I think we're a great state to invest in. I think we've got some great demographic trends. But from an investor standpoint, I think we're not, if they were to list their top 5 states, we might not be on that list. So I think for me, it's been establishing relationships with folks who are interested in this and kind of utilizing those. So, it's been kind of just using my network.
Yeah. Did you say banks are now investing in these funds? That's interesting.
Yeah. So gosh, I forget. I think it was last week or the week before. They came up with a ruling that banks are allowed to invest money into opportunity zones. Now, some banks have gone out and established their own funds. Aside from that, but you see on social media, people were, hey, do banks even have capital gains? I don't know. I don't know how big that big of an impact that's going to have. But hey, it's another tool in the box and something that can kind of help get things moving, hopefully.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, they can offer financing too.
That's right. Absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, some banks. I mean, I was at we had a conference with the OCC, which is under Treasury in Charleston 3 weeks ago, and I brought in some projects that were kind of good for the community, and some of the banks were down there, and there was a couple of the banks that were saying that they're making with their funds, they're making equity investments into opportunity zone deals. So I mean, one of them, it was crazy. It was like a $10 million deal. The bank put in $7 million of the equity, then they loaned $2 million, and then they had the developer had to come up with $1 million. So it was just a really fascinating way to set it up. I'm going to guess that that's the exception to the rule, that doesn't happen in all their deals. But it was still fascinating to see that was happening.
Yeah, and if a bank can, like, it goes back to the same thing. If you can see the opportunity, investing in opportunity zones or providing financing for investment in opportunity zones is a great marketing ploy for a bank to the community and to their customers that says, look at us, we're giving back into the community, we're helping the community, especially in these times where people are thinking, that there's all kinds of problems in that. It's a marketing ploy, and it's a marketing tool that, look at me, I gave back to the community, so don't you love me? Come and be my customer.
That's right. That's exactly right. So, yeah, at that event, I mean, gosh, we had Senator Scott there, we had Secretary Carson, and then the head of the OCC, and they were all kind of touting that and basically saying, look, we've been given an executive order. Every one of us has to prioritize opportunity zones. So when you apply for a loan at HUD and you're in an opportunity zone, you get priority. So, I mean, it's interesting to see how that played out, and it's great to see that everyone, we're all trying to get everyone kind of marching in the same direction. And look, there's critics of opportunity zones. Are opportunity zones perfect? No. Is any government program perfect? I don't think so. I don't know of one that I can say, hey, is 100% perfect. But, I think if there's pieces of this that people want to see changed, we should change it. I do think that we should be reporting and showing the good work that we're doing. I think we should be required to do that. It gives it transparency. Why shouldn't we show the amazing things that we're doing around the country? And that wasn't the original bill, and it got taken out. So I know Senator Scott has pushed hard to get that back in. We'll see what happens, but we as a fund have kind of voluntarily offered to voluntarily report kind of our social impact and all those things, and we're a member of the Opportunity Funds Association, and all of their members have vouched to do the same thing. So hopefully there's a couple of us that kind of lead the charge, and hopefully some other folks follow.
Right. Reporting is very important because opportunity zones has no history. It just was created with nothing to show for it. And unless you have some kind of reporting to some extent, you kind of cut off your nose to spite your face because you have nothing to show for what you're doing. It's vital.
That's right.
So do you think the future of opportunity zones is great and the legislation is going to modify to expand the program?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I guess the thing is that the train has left the track on opportunity zones. There's people who have already invested. There's projects that are up and running that have already started their 10-year countdown. So I think it's going to be hard to get those trains onto a different track or adjust it, because everyone, when they went into the investment, had assumptions about what was going to happen. I think the only thing that we may see is, all right, going forward, here's what maybe we expect to see. My hope is that we get some reporting and and get to actually see what people are investing in. Because I know of other projects happening around South Carolina, but it's just because I happen to know the developers and talk to the folks. It's not because it was in a central database somewhere.
Right.
And then I know that EIG has done a really good job of putting together a map of kind of the projects that are happening around the country. And that's really interesting to look at and see what's going on. But aside from that, I mean, there's no central database to tell us what's going on.
Yeah, and it's sad because, especially in business, the more information you have, the better decision you can make. And so when a lot of that information and data is missing with something, you're a little bit in the dark, and you have to take a bigger risk and hope that the risk is worth the opportunity. So reporting, I think, I'm surprised they didn't put that in initially, but hopefully it'll get more in the future.
Yeah, I know they had it in the bill originally, like in Tim Scott's first version, it was in there, and I think through they do some horse trading in the back rooms, it got pulled out for one reason or another. But
Right.
They're trying to get it back in, so I guess we'll see what happens.
We need to get Tim Scott on the podcast, don't you think, Vicki?
He's a great speaker.
It's like my dream to get Tim Scott on the podcast, and it's just being difficult.
Yeah. Hey, listen, Mark, I got one more question for you before we close this out regarding your fund again. You're obviously investing in a lot of multifamily projects. Are you doing any other real estate or asset classes with this, or are you going strictly multifamily and residential?
No, I've been kind of deal agnostic. I've just tried to say, all right, look, I want to do deals around South Carolina, and I want to make sure that they're good and help the community. So we've got industrial. We are still working on some hospitality. We've got some businesses that we're looking at. We've been looking at. We've got a project right now that's an old mill. It's 450,000 square feet, and it's just going to be a phenomenal project. South Carolina is very much a textile. The history of South Carolina is very much in textiles, and they would have the textile mill, and then around the mill they would build out housing for all the workers. And when all of those textiles got moved overseas, these plants shut down, and these communities kind of got down. But when you turn these mills around, bringing people in and businesses, those communities just flourish. So I'm super excited about that project because it's going to mean a lot for that community, and I think it's going to really change the landscape of it.
Excellent. And then I'm sure there's a lot of people listening to this right now who may have capital gains they want to invest. How would they get a hold of you to get more information on your fund and what you're doing?
Sure, feel free. So our website is scopportunityfund.com, and we've got some links on there. We actually did a statewide Opportunity Zone Summit last year. We had 350 people. Tim Scott came, Lieutenant Governor came. We had regional head of HUD, regional head of SBA. So it was a great event, and I posted all those videos for free on the site for folks to learn about Opportunity Zone. So there's, I think we had over 30 speakers. So if folks want to learn about specific things, it's a free education tool for anybody.
Excellent. Well, Vicki, I'm telling you, I think brewery and a golf course. I'm headed to South Carolina. What do you think?
Well, sounds like a good thing.
Yeah. Do you have any last questions for Mark?
I have one last thing, Mark.
Sure.
It's refreshing to be able to talk to a fund manager who has such a successful fund that is doing so much in the community. It's like that's the purpose of the program. The purpose was to lift the quality of life for the residents in the community, to help them, to bring businesses in, to enhance the whole environment. And it's very refreshing to know that someone's actually doing it. I commend you, Mark, for doing such a great job with your fund.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I just, the way we operate, it's the way I think it should be done. And,
Exactly.
if we're not helping communities with our projects, maybe those projects shouldn't be done or should be modified.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All right. Well, Mark, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to us. It was really interesting stuff. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you both. I really appreciate it.
Mark.
Yeah, and Vicki, thanks for co-hosting. Everyone, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at mappableusa.com. If you go to that website, scroll down on the homepage, you'll see all our syndication sources. Click on the one you like best, and you'll never miss another episode. If you want to be a guest in the show like Mark was today, there's a guest tab there. You can fill that out, and we'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And if you like what you heard today, send us an email, info@mappableusa.com, or just comment on the page that you're probably listening to this on right now. That'd be great. So once again, everyone, thanks for all your support. Thanks for listening. And we'll be at you next week with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.